Love them or hate them, United Airlines is one of the world's largest airlines. There's a ton of aspects to the program, and there's a ton of ways to hack it. We're going to talk about it today. My name is Sean, and I'm here with my co-host as well as a very special guest.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherwin. I'm the Stanford student. That's the part of the Credit Card BS podcast. Here with a very special episode today because I have brought one of my classmates from Stanford, Sathvik, who is an expert in all things United Airlines. I'm really excited to have him join us today. So Sathvik, welcome to the Credit Card BS podcast. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you. So my name's Sathvik. I'm also a student at Stanford, and I got into the credit card game, I'd say about a year ago, and I really love traveling the world and, exploring new places with my friends.
That's awesome. So how did you get into this?
So actually, it's kind of funny because I got an Amex because my friend who actually spends a lot on dining, I always saw that he had an Amex, and I was like, I'm tired of my Discover card. So he sent me a referral link, and I applied to it. And, kind of then I just sat with the Amex. Actually, I remember I was disappointed that when they said 4X dining, you couldn't get 4% cash back. They didn't actually meet one-to-one. But, I think what happened was I actually read on 1 Mile at a Time, which is one of my favorite blogs, an article about saying this card is too good to be true. And they're actually talking about the Hilton Aspire card. And when I read that article, I was like, yeah, this card is too good to be true. Like, how can it exist? So, I actually applied and got it. And once I got that, I think I realized how many other credit cards there were that had so many cool benefits that really allowed you to travel for cheap. So since then, I've gotten a couple more credit cards, and I think they've really allowed me to go on some really cool vacations recently.
That's awesome. So Sathvik, what are some of your favorite programs? I definitely know from talking to you that Hilton is one of them, right?
Yeah, so, I know a lot of people have gripes about Hilton, but actually I've found for at least my needs, I've gotten really good value out of them. I also, I fly United. I'm based out of San Francisco, so United kind of has a monopoly out of SFO, so I tend to mainly fly them. And yeah, I'd say that Amex and Hilton are my main three things I use.
Very cool. Okay, so I think we should just jump right in now and talk about today's main event, which is the United Hacks. So, Sathvik, why don't you kind of ease us into this conversation by first telling us the different tiers of status you can earn with United and give us your take on whether it's worth trying to go for one of these.
Yeah, for sure. So United's one of the big four U.S. airlines, right? The United, Delta, American, Southwest. They have hubs out of San Francisco, Houston, Denver, Newark, New York, Dulles, Washington, and they have one in Guam. Oh, and Chicago. And I think, they're kind of known. They do have a lot of flights within the U.S. And it's very easy, at least out of their hubs, to get flights almost anywhere on the U.S. And they also have one of the biggest loyalty programs for airlines. So the base tier that they start off with is just simply being a Mileage Plus member. But the tiers that actually have benefits start off with Premier Silver. So the way United determines how you reach these tiers, there's two concepts. One's called PQPs and one's called PQFs. So PQPs are Premier Qualifying Points and PQFs are Premier Qualifying Flights. So basically, they're trying to have multiple ways for you to reach status. So for the lowest tier, which is Premier Silver, you can either spend $5,000 on United tickets or their partner Star Alliance Airlines, or you can spend $4,000 on United tickets and their partner Star Alliance Airlines and fly 12 PQFs, which are basically 12 flights. To go up the tiers, then there's Gold, where it's either spend $10,000 or 8,000 PQPs and 24 flights. And then from Premier Platinum is 12,000 PQP plus 36 flights, or just spending $15,000 outright. And finally, then they have Premier 1K, which is their highest published status, which has a spend requirement of either $24,000 outright or $18,000 plus 54 PQFs. They also have one status above, which is Global Services, which I think we can talk about a little later. But to walk through the benefits, so last year was actually, or the year before last, was the first year I had United status, and I had Premier Silver. And I think it's actually a great intro status. Like, unlike the hotel, I think we've talked about this before, unlike the hotel statuses, the intro airline statuses actually do give you a lot of benefits. So one of my favorite things about Premier Silver was that at check-in, you could get Economy Plus seats. So, the name draw of status, i.e. business class upgrades, won't really happen that much at Premier Silver unless you get extremely lucky. But, having a free checked bag, having Premier Access, which is their priority security, getting that tag on your bag, it actually, even the red or orange priority tag is allowed my bag so much to come quicker. It's kind of useful. Plus being able to select economy plus seats at check-in. Another interesting thing, actually, this helped me a lot. United gives you Avis status if you have Premier Silver or above. So actually what I was able to do was get Avis status and match it to Hertz. So I got Hertz President Circle status out of United United Silver status. So last year and this year, I've actually gotten Premier Gold status with United. So that's their mid-level status. And I think, I've kind of read a lot about this, and I think there are two main theories when it comes to airline status. Some people really, will pursue these higher level statuses like Premier 1K with United, Delta, Medallion. But, I think Premier Gold is kind of where, for the average person, you'll maximize the benefits that you get. So you get Group 1 boarding. For Premier Silver, you get Group 2 boarding, which is, with the people who bought economy plus seats, the people who have United credit cards, etc. But for Premier Gold, you get Group 1, which is when first class people and other mileage elites board. So that's one of the nice benefits. You get 2 free checked bags, but you also get Star Alliance Gold, which has been really helpful for me, because whenever you travel internationally, if you're flying on a Star Alliance carrier, you get free checked bags, you get highest priority for upgrades and waitlists, and you also get access to lounges across the Star Alliance network, which has been really nice. The other benefits of Star Alliance Gold or Premier Gold is they actually give you Marriott Bonvoy Gold status. So I was able to get that pretty easily through United. It isn't the most useful, but it's a nice perk, at least with earning Bonvoy points, that I kind of like. So that's kind of where I've been sitting at. It is harder to get the higher statuses because you do have to be flying a lot. And I think, I kind of say this, like, unlike the hotel statuses, it's a lot harder to hack the airline statuses, and that, at some way you have to spend money with them, either on their co-branded credit cards, which you can also get to later, or on, flying, just booking flights by themselves. Oh, the other benefit about Premier Gold is you start getting economy plus seats at booking, which is actually really nice for me. So, every time I fly United, I can reliably say I'll either get a bulkhead seat or, the second exit row that has the nice legroom and also reclines. So that's always been really nice, because when I think about it, I never realized, but United actually charges a lot of money for those seats. So it's like every single flight I fly, basically, I can get $100, $150 extra seat for free, which is really nice. And it's not only for me, it's for me and my companions. So, that's kind of a really cool benefit for me. Above that, we have Premier Platinum. So honestly, there's not that much difference between Premier Platinum and Premier Gold. You still board Group 1. The only real tangible benefit is, instead of just getting economy plus seats for you and one companion, you get it for you and 8 companions. So, if you're consistently flying in a large group, it might be useful. But I've also heard mixed things that United, if you call them on the phone, even if you only have gold, they'll give you economy plus seats for you and 4 companions. Like, it's kind of this like unheard rules that if you just call them, they'll be flexible. The other main thing about Premier Platinum is where United's version of Premier upgrades kind of start to kick in more. So they give you something called PlusPoints, which are basically United's tool that you can use to try to confirm upgrades either domestically or internationally on their business class and some of their Star Alliance partners. I don't know if we want to talk about PlusPoints now or we can talk about it later, because they're kind of a whole nother topic of how to
Let's get to PlusPoints in a second. I do have a question for you. So you mentioned how for the status qualification levels, you could either do the Premier qualifying flights or the Premier qualifying points, or the mix, right? And if you earn more PQPs, you don't have to earn any PQFs. Now, my question as someone who's in this game and who's wants to game it immediately, you mentioned specific spend thresholds to earn PQPs. If I'm flying partner flights, how does, is there a way to game it via the distance bands, the fare classes? How does that work?
So actually, it's kind of tricky, because I'd say 75% of instances, you're actually going on partner flights, you're going to earn less PQPs than the dollars you spend. But on this 25%, you'll earn more. So the way it works with partners is they have a list of 2 categories. They have preferred partners and non-preferred partners. So preferred partners are airlines that, United has close interline agreements with, or like joint ventures with, such as like ANA, Lufthansa, Copa, airlines like these. So on these airlines, my math might be wrong, but basically the way you earn PQPs is you take the miles that they give you at that fare class and divide by 5. Yeah, you divide by 5, and that's the amount of PQPs you get. So they also have other Star Alliance carriers that aren't their, preferred partners, such as like Air India and a couple others. So for those airlines, how much ever money you spend on them, you divide by, or how many ever miles you get from the ticket you bought, you divide that by 6, and that's how many PQPs you get. But so I think the thing is, if you book a higher fare class on partner airlines, you can kind of game it a little bit with like how many miles you earn, and if you're traveling around their preferred partners for relatively cheap. Because I booked an Avianca flight, it was only $300, but I paid $20 more to get their fare class where you earn 7 miles per dollar spent instead of just a normal 5. And I think it'll average out so that I'll earn more than $300 worth of PQPs. But honestly, actually, a lot of my friends' parents have the highest tier United statuses. And, my friend actually told me that his parents made 2 Polaris trips to Israel. And the tickets from San Francisco to Israel are just so expensive that, like, 2 flights to Israel and back got her the highest published status of Premier 1K because it's so expensive. So I think it's harder to hack it. I think there's some opportunities. I like that you can earn PQPs on flights booked with partners because, Star Alliance is the biggest global alliance and it has a lot of reach, and I might not always want to fly United because you can sometimes find better business class or deals on other airlines. But yeah.
I'm curious so you talked about how like airline status is harder to hack than hotel statuses, perhaps, which you can often get pretty easily with the aid of credit cards. Whereas like airline status, you actually have to have spend and have to have flights stuff. So I'm curious, do you tend to earn your status because like you explicitly do things to get it, or are you naturally getting status based on how much you would have flown anyway?
Yeah, so actually, interestingly enough, the first year I qualified for Premier Gold. So one of the ways actually you can hack, quote unquote, the status is ultimately the amount of PQPs you get is dependent on your fare class. So what really helped me the first year I got Premier Gold was actually I was flying, honestly, both years, even the first year I got Premier Silver, was when your flight get canceled or your flights gets delayed. So on my way, I was flying from Istanbul back to San Francisco. So I was flying Istanbul to Frankfurt and then Frankfurt to San Francisco. But what ended up happening was the flight from Istanbul to Frankfurt got super delayed. So I missed my connection. So what happened was United rebooked me the next day on a flight, or Lufthansa rebooked me on the next day on a flight from Frankfurt to San Francisco. But the fare class they put me in was the same as if I'd bought a one-way business class ticket the day of. So the PQPs I actually got on that were a lot more than what I paid for my deeply discounted business class ticket back. So that kind of helped me get Premier Silver the first time. And the second time I got Premier Gold, I was flying back from India to San Francisco on ANA. And this was last summer when, there were snowstorms across Newark, and United canceled a lot of flights to the East Coast. So my flight from Tokyo to Washington Dulles got canceled 3 different times. So I ended up having to spend the night in Japan. I ended up getting some weird connection to go through Denver, but the same thing happened where they rebooked me on the highest business class full fare class. So I got a lot more PQPs than I should have for what I paid. But so I'd say actually I do a little bit chase the status. I think it's really nice. I enjoyed it. I think, it's psychological too with the airlines that they know that, I will pay more at this point to fly United because I like having the economy plus seat. I like having the checked bags. I like being able to board Group 1. And so I know I'll have overhead bin space. So, I think it's kind of, self-fulfilling prophecy, and that they'll get you to spend by giving you these little perks that, are not even that expensive for them. So
that's really cool. I mean, it sounds very interesting. As someone who has never chased airline status myself, it's just a very cool perspective to hear. I'm wondering if you can tell us now a little more about the United credit cards. Do you hold any of these? Do you find them useful? What should people know about them?
So I told Sherwin when I first got the United card, I don't think he was a fan, but I have the United Explorer card, which is the one they always try to sell to you on their airline. So there are a couple reasons why I got it. It's questionable. I mean, the 60,000 miles I think were really nice because I could get the spend pretty easily. So they actually have 4 main cards, I think. So they have the Gateway card, which is their no annual fee card, and that doesn't really do much. It kind of earns 2 miles per dollar spent on United purchases, and then 1 mile for everything else. The Explorer card is the one that if you ever fly United, I'm sure the flight attendants have sold you. And that one, it's a $95 annual fee, but the nice thing is they waive it for the first year. And the benefits you get with that are 2 club passes, which honestly for me are pretty useless. Like I'm struggling to use them because whenever I go, I have access to a Star Alliance flight lounge, even if I'm flying domestically. So I don't really need the club passes. And if I'm flying internationally in economy, I have Star Alliance Gold, so I can go to a United club. But they give you a $100 TSA in global entry credit, which was nice because I didn't have it until I got the Explorer card. But one of the benefits actually that we kind of talked about is the United status gives you complimentary upgrades. So if there are unsold business class seats on domestic and certain small scale international routes, United was willing to give you the business class seat if you have status. So unfortunately, this only applies if you pay for the ticket with cash. So if you book a ticket with award miles, your name is not going to be on the upgrade list, even if you have United status. The one exception to this is if you hold a co-branded United card, they'll add you to the list. So actually, the reason I got the United card was I had multiple flights coming up. I was going to Puerto Vallarta with my parents, and I was also going to St. Martin with my friends for my birthday. And when I looked at the flights, both of these were award flights. There was the business class was only 10% full, and I knew that these were routes that at least the St. Martin one didn't have a lot of premieres on it, so I thought there was a reasonable chance I'd get an upgrade. So I was like, if the credit card's free, I might as well get it to try to get an upgrade. Both of those times I was number 1 on the upgrade list and the seats filled up, so it ended up not working out. But it's nice to be on the list at least. So that's one of the main benefits of the card. I wouldn't spend anything on the United cards. Like I mainly have Amexes, so it's nice to have a Visa card, when you're traveling internationally. But I don't think none of the multipliers on the United cards are that great. The other higher tier cards, they have the Quest card, which has a $250 annual fee. But I think the benefits you get is you get like $125 in United credit plus like 20,000 miles or something like that. And then they also have the United Club card and then the Business Club card. So what these do, these are like, the annual fee is $525 on these, but these basically include a club membership. So you're getting a discounted United Club membership as part of the process. You also get, I think you get IHG, this one status below the top for IHG, and then you also get Premier access and like 3 checked bags.
Now, I do want to raise something. So it was my understanding that the United Quest card, which has a higher annual fee of $250 than Explorer, which is $95, but it was my understanding that it generally had a lower effective annual fee though, because the Quest card gives you the $125 credit each year, as well as I think 2 5,000 miles voucher thingies. So basically 10,000 miles. So if you add those up, arguably that more easily justifies the $250 annual fee than the Explorer's $95 annual fee that doesn't come with tangible credits or miles. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so honestly, I don't even think I'll keep my Explorer card next year. I think I just got it because they waived the annual fee for the first year, and they give you, if you sign up on an airplane, they give you bonus miles. So that's the main reason why I got it. So, but I think even then, I think it's questionable with the Quest card just because there's a catch to getting those 10,000 miles. So I think the way it works is they give you 2 5,000 mile vouchers, but I think it's like after you book, but you have to book, I guess you have to book 2 mileage plus flights to kind of get those back. So it's kind of like they're still making you jump through some hoops. And even with the $125 United statement credit, you still have to pay $125. So honestly, I'd maybe recommend the Explorer card if you have status and you want complimentary upgrades, or you want, you could benefit from the 2 one-time club passes. But the other thing also about any of their cards is the one-time club passes are notoriously difficult to use because you have the lowest priority. So a lot of times, the United clubs in Denver, not really in San Francisco, I think it's been fine, but in like Newark or like Dulles, they can get really, really crowded. And the first people they'll stop accepting are people who have one-time passes. So I've heard a lot of people complaining that it's hard to use them. So I think United credit card game is good, but I wouldn't recommend anyone to really go out of their way to get it. Like I think maybe, churning the sign-up bonus is nice on all of them because it's a pretty substantial amount. Like it's enough, I think, for if you're looking well to get one business class flight to Europe. But I don't think long-term any of these cards are really that great.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
I also want to point out a very interesting route to status for those people like me that would like airline status, but I don't find myself flying domestically enough to justify earning it, because most of my flights I try to do points business class internationally. so it's not that useful, but I still want some status domestically for the priority lines and stuff. Marriott Titanium or above, so if you have Marriott Titanium or Ambassador status, it just comes straight up with United Silver, which has been surprisingly useful to me because I've, gotten all those status benefits. I've been able to do the priority lines and all that. And I've even actually been upgraded to business once before. I had a flight from LAX to Cancun, and my girlfriend and I were the first two on the upgrade list. And surprisingly, we cleared, which was very, very shocking because that's like, who gets upgraded as United Silver, but that was great. And because Marriott Titanium was relatively easy to attain because usually they'll have these promotions in the beginning of the year where you get double night credits. So doing that was able to get the United Silver, and it's been pretty nice because now I don't have to actually go out and earn any status.
Yeah, no, that's nice. I think it's great actually. Yeah, you got more upgrades than I have, but because I've actually had better luck on Star Alliance partners getting upgrades because I'm Star Alliance Gold. But another thing related to that, kind of with miles, is I think United's one of the few airlines where if you book a ticket with mileage plus miles, they still give you PQP, so you won't earn more miles on top of that. But basically, it works out for you get 1 cent a mile in terms of PQP. So if you're spending 5,000 miles to book a flight, you get 50 PQPs from that. So they're actually nice in that. I think that was something they did relatively recently, a couple of years ago. But even spending miles on United, which you can transfer from Chase, earns you PQPs and PQFs.
Oh, that's really good to know. And speaking of United miles, I'm wondering, what is your take on the value of United miles? Are there sweet spots we should know? Are they generally valuable? I mean, Sean and I have pretty strong opinions about transferring Chase points to that.
Yeah, I'm really curious as well because we always send them to Hyatt, but I haven't gone too much into the United mileage program, so I'm really curious about this.
Yeah, so I think you probably won't get as outsized values as you get with Hyatt, but I think the problem with these United miles is that they're only really worthwhile when you can find saver award space, and it's really hard a lot of times, especially if you don't have status with United or don't have certain co-branded credit cards to get access to this award space. So United actually, when I look through it, the way it works is silver, gold, and platinum have access to economy saver space. So they'll give you, there are two fare classes. There's X, which is regular saver, and then XN, which is savers only for saver award space for premiers and people who have certain co-branded United cards. So if you gain access to that, you can get some really sweet spot redemptions. I actually got a flight from St. Martin back to San Francisco. So it was actually a heinous connection. It's St. Martin to Panama, Panama to Houston, Houston to San Francisco. But it was only 18,000 miles. And the cash rate for that flight was $1,000. So it was, for me at least, it worked out. I ended up missing the flight in Houston. So I had to spend the night in Houston on my birthday. But it worked out price-wise for me at least. It was very cheap. The other nice things about mileage is sometimes they have a lot of partners. You can get decent value, not on the big business class things. At least for United, what I've found is most of the outsized value comes in economy redemptions. If you really want to use it to fly business or first, you're not going to get as great value unless you're really booking last minute. So the thing is, for business class, they have two main fare classes, I and IN. And the problem is very few people have access to IN award space. I think it's only Premier 1K and Global Services, which is their unpublished invite-only tier. So people who have access to saver business class space where you can actually get reasonable award redemptions for business class, you're probably spending enough with United that you'd probably be buying the seat outright most of the case. So that's what kind of my take on it. I've gone outsized value, I'd say. I think me and my parents, my family, we've flown United pretty consistently, so we just have a bank of United miles. And what I'd say is nice is we use them a lot of times to get around India. United's partners with this Indian airline called Vistara, which is a joint venture with Singapore and Tata Group, and they actually it's very nice. They're probably one of the the boutique luxury airline in India, even in economy class, and 5,000, 7,000 United miles plus $5-6. We could get around India for flights that aren't that expensive, but it still works out more than 1 cent a point. Other things I've used it for, I found saver awards based to Hawaii. A lot of times you can actually get really good deals, 12,000 miles to 10,000 miles to Honolulu. I think me and my friend booked that once. And yeah, I think it's mainly you have to look for it and be kind of flexible a little bit, but they're relatively good, I'd say, in economy on most destinations if you have status and access to that XN award space of being able to good value.
So I just want to clarify here. So when you say X and XN, if you have access to that XN space, it would be the exact same price as X, right? And my other question is that like even if you don't have access to that space, you can still usually book the seat, right? Just at a much higher price.
Yeah, so because they're not doing award charts, technically you can book, they have last seat availability, so technically you can book any seat. As long as there's a seat, you can book it with miles. But, the prices are going to be ridiculously expensive if there's not Saver award space for most of these routes. So I think the way it works, I might be wrong, is like they'll have X and XN, but there's more likely to be XN award space, or they'll open that up first before there's X award space. So if you have access to, you can book XN, you'll be the same price, but there's more of XN. So, or they'll open it up first, so it's like easier to get access to it.
One thing I heard was that even if you had like the no annual fee United Gateway card, you could get access to more award space on United. So I know people who just have that no annual fee United card solely to get more award space. Are you familiar with this?
My understanding was you needed one of their paid cards, but I might be wrong. Like it might be that any of their cards give you. But another thing they started recently, and I've actually liked this, is they have like discounts for premiers, for premier status. So I think this is separate from like the Saver award space. But like, so I was trying to, this is before my spring break plans kind of changed, but I was trying to book a flight from Cabo to Frankfurt, and there was no Saver award space, so United wanted 70K flight miles for that flight in economy. But what I saw was, because I had status with United, they had something called Premier Save, so they were charging 40,000 miles, which is the same amount if there was XN or X award space. So they also kind of have the separate program where they give you like discounts ranging from like 5% to 50% if you have if you have status with United, and that's kind of separate, I think, from the Saver award space.
Oh, okay. That's super interesting. Because, I mean, one thing Sean and I like to talk about a lot is booking like United Saver awards through partners like Turkish Airlines, which charge a very low number of miles. But, it was my understanding that availability could be very hard to come by. So knowing about this, XN or IN space is really useful. That was something new to me. Didn't know. Okay, I was wondering if there are other things about United you want to talk about. Like, I think you mentioned the PlusPoints earlier, upgrades.
Yeah. So quickly before that, one of the other really nice things about United, this especially for people like us who are on the younger side, is United has discounts for people who are 18 to 23-year-olds. So if you book through the app, you create a Mileage Plus account on the app. When you try to book a ticket, there should be an option to book a regular or award ticket, but there's also a discounted ticket option for 18 to 23-year-olds. And, they say it's 5%. In practice, I've gotten a lot more, but that one, especially for younger people, you can really get outsized value. And I think the main benefit you'll see from that is if you're booking flights closer to the date of travel. So 2 years ago, my family decided last second, kind of like, this is already in December, they wanted to go to Kona for winter break for a week. So my parents actually, and my brother, who was under 18, had to book basic economy tickets, which came out to something like $300 a person because they were so last second. But with this discount that United gave me, I was able to book a regular ticket for actually cheaper than their basic economy ticket. Because one of the other benefits of that is normally as you get closer to the flight date, United will block people from booking their like heavily discounted economy or heavily discounted business fares. But if you use the 18 to 23-year-old discount and you're booking tickets last second, you'll still have access to that fare space. So that's something that I've enjoyed. I've actually saved a decent amount of money doing that. So if you're young, and it can oftentimes be a significant price difference from the regular price ticket.
Oh, that's really good to know. And to clarify, you have to use the mobile app to book.
Interesting. Okay. That's interesting that you use the app specifically. Okay. I wanted to ask you about this because I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and this is something I've not researched enough at all. Could you explain a bit more about the Excursionist perk with miles? I've heard a lot of different blogs about it, that you can get some pretty good value if you use it right. Yeah, I'm just curious about it.
So the Excursionist perk kind of stems from the fact that it's kind of related to like open jaw itineraries, where like if you're going to a place, so if you book a round trip ticket with miles, and I think it's kind of confusing, so the best way to explain it is with an example. So let's say I'm going to Hawaii. If I'm going to book a round trip ticket with miles, let's say I want to check out multiple islands. So let's say I book a ticket with miles from San Francisco to Kauai. But then I also want to fly back from Honolulu. So then my return leg, I want to book from Honolulu to San Francisco. What United says is if you're booking it round trip with miles, we'll give you the flight from Kauai to Honolulu for free. So basically, they have like predefined regions. I'm not exactly sure where they are, and I think it's kind of complicated. But like Hawaii is a region. I think some parts of Europe are a region. So if you're booking a round trip ticket with miles and you want to go to another destination within that region, United will pay for your one way, or they'll give you the award flight for free one way from this place to another place.
And so
or from
for that
within the
one-way
region.
award flight, like it's a legitimate stopover, right? So you can like stop in each destination.
Yeah. The issue for me is I rarely book round trip United mile or round trip United flights with miles. And I think the reason why is a lot of times I've found, because I rarely use miles internationally, because as we can talk about later, using miles makes it significantly harder to upgrade to business class. But domestically, what I've at least found is that normally one leg is like way cheaper than another leg. So normally you'll either be going there as like 3 times more expensive, just a one-way flight going back, and then booking that with miles makes sense. So I haven't really been able to use it this much. I think the best use case is actually if you're going to Hawaii, because otherwise the amount of miles you'd be spending anyways, United isn't really giving you. It might be like at a 5,000, 7,000 mile bump anyways. So it's nice, but it's hard because I think like making it work out with all your dates and stuff is tricky, and the flight has to exist. Like you have to be able to book it with miles regularly for them to give it to you. They won't like book you any flight on any airline. And I think the trickiest rule is if you book 2 one-way legs, it's not going to work. So you have to be booking a round trip ticket with miles at the time of booking, and there has to be award space for what you need for all 3 of those legs for it to work out.
And does that include partner awards
Yeah, so partner awards are. So on the flight from, in my example, from Kauai to Honolulu, you'd book a Hawaiian Airlines flight, even because,
Okay.
United has access to book that space.
Got it. Okay, that's really good to know. I'm wondering if you could tell us more now about like the plus points, how like these upgrades work. I've kind of heard about them amorphously, but I really don't really know much about them or how they work.
Yeah, so plus points are basically United's tool for their higher tier elite statuses, so Premier, Platinum, and above, to basically reward you for loyalty and giving you the ability to confirm into business class. So it's notoriously complicated to figure out how to use them, and I think a lot of people complain that they find that their plus points aren't available. So kind of related to the mileage award space, there are 2 things when you have these plus points. So when you're Premier Platinum, they give you 40 plus points. When you're Premier 1K, they give you like another like 300 or so, I think, something along those lines. And then after that, every like $5,000 or so you spend with United, they give you another 40. So the tricky thing about these plus points is there's 2 types of upgrades you can do. They're either confirmed upgrade space or you wait list. So what happens if you start off with the wait list? So let's say I book a flight from here to Newark or here to Mexico or something, and I decide, I want to increase my chance of getting an upgrade because, my complimentary status won't work. What United says, if you have these plus points for domestic and within North America, you can use 20 plus points, and that'll do 2 things. If there's 2 types of award space, if there's PZ or PN award space, you'll confirm the upgrade fare class. You'll confirm the upgrade right away, and the second you give them those 20 plus points, they'll give you a business class seat. If there isn't those the PZ or PN, you have to go on the upgrade list with all the other people who are using complimentary upgrades. So you still, because you're using plus points, you're higher up on the list. So chances are you'll be like in the top 10 or so, depending on the flight and how other people used it. But you have a greater chance of clearing, but it's still not guaranteed. So there's very well likely that their seats could completely sell out and they'd have to return you the plus points. So there's some ways to get around with it. People mainly use plus points, I'd say, for international travel because domestically the value isn't there. So the way it works is cost-wise. So if you're upgrading from a discounted United economy fare, which I think is like H or lower, it might H or W, one of those 2 are lower, it costs 80 plus points to upgrade from discounted economy to Polaris. If you're trying to go from discounted economy to premium plus, I think or any sort of economy to premium plus, which is their premium economy product, it's 20 plus points. And if you're trying to go from premium economy to Polaris, it's only 30 plus points. So that's the main use case of them. So like I said, if you have Premier Platinum, it's basically enough if you're booking a full fare economy class to get 1 upgrade to Polaris. It's not guaranteed or confirmed a lot of times. In certain busy routes, you'll often find it hard to get these upgrades to clear, but there's certain ways you can work around it. So Global Services, which is United's unpublished tier, sorry, one more thing before that is you can't use these plus points on mileage flights with one exemption. So if you book a flight with miles, you can't use plus points. The only exception to that is if you're United Global Services. So that's their unpublished invite only tier. So these are people who are spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars on United. They can use their plus points to upgrade you on an award ticket. But even this, recently United's kind of cracked down on this. So I think now it's not official, but they kind of changed the rule that not only do the global services have to use their plus points, they have to use their miles to book the ticket. So if you book a ticket with your own United miles from your account and your parents or your friend is global services, 50-50, but a lot of times their plus points can't even be used to upgrade your flight, which is, a little annoying to say the least. But I think those are main things. The other thing is there's two award space, PZ and PN. Only global service members have access to that PN award space. So it's kind of like United Sabre award space with X and XN. A lot of times they'll release seats to PN before they do to PZ. So global services plus points are a lot more useful. And they also, when you use plus points, if a global services member uses plus points on you, even if you don't have any United status, you get their priority on the upgrade list. So if I have no United status, but my friend who's global services upgrades me, I go to the top. I'll be simply behind every other person who actually has global services. So I'll be very, very high on the upgrade list.
Okay, that's really good to know and a lot of information. I just want to ask, so just to confirm, plus points, they can't be used on like partners, right? It's just for United Metal?
You actually, so I think there are three. You can use them on ANA, Copa, and Lufthansa. And I think the thing is, I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of times these are actually easier to use, so they'll confirm you the upgrade. So I've heard there are use cases, it might be slightly harder, but you could actually if you book an ANA business class flight, you can use 20 or I think maybe 20 or 30 plus points and upgrade to first. Same thing with Lufthansa. So there actually might be value there and like being able to get the upgrade. I've never tried it myself.
But would you have to buy the ANA ticket or could it be a mileage?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you have to. So if you go on the United site, they have a list of fare classes that are eligible. So I'm pretty sure the only airline actually that lets you even use this stuff on discounted economy fares is Copa. The other two, you have to book a regular fare ticket. And another thing is sometimes it confuses people because United sells ANA and Lufthansa flights because they have joint ventures on the Pacific and the Atlantic. If you're booking it through United, so if you're booking, because United will sell me a Lufthansa flight tomorrow from San Francisco to Frankfurt that's completely on Lufthansa. If you're booking it through United, so your e-ticket number has 016, you can't use the plus points to upgrade it. You have to book it through Lufthansa. So it has to be a Lufthansa ticket to use plus points to upgrade.
That's okay. But so you're saying like, so you mentioned like it cannot be like a discounted economy fare, like one of the more expensive fare classes. Does that same restriction apply to the business class partners? So if I book an ANA business flight with cash, could I then use plus points to upgrade into ANA first? Or would it have to be like a mega expensive business class ticket? You get what I'm saying? If I find a cheap one, is that going to work?
Because actually when I flew ANA, I remember this because they have one of the cheapest fare class. It says explicitly in the terms you can't use mileage upgrades to confirm into first. It's not 100% sure, but I think you can look at the fare classes because they publish them. But honestly, you're probably right because I feel like if you could use plus points, considering how prevalent they are among United people, it would be a bigger, like I would have heard more about people using it to confirm into first class. So I think the issue is it might be the same, like there has to be Sabre first class award space too. It might be that, like just so like if you could book that flight with miles, then you can also use plus points to confirm upgrades. But another benefit here with these plus points in a similar vein, even if you don't have access to them, you can actually use United miles or any Star Alliance miles to upgrade United or Star Alliance partner flights. So this is actually really useful because you can get pretty good value here. So for spring break now, I was going to South America. So on my way back, I'm flying from Bogota to Panama and Panama to San Francisco. So booking that ticket in business class was something like $2,000, but for economy, it was only $400. So with United though, I could use 20,000 United miles and upgrade that Copa leg confirmed upgrade from Panama to San Francisco, which has their lie flat product, into business class. So it's like a 7.5 hour flight for 20,000 miles. It's a confirmed upgrade. You can also use this on United flights. So I think it's something like 30,000 miles, but to upgrade from economy to Polaris on on an international leg with United, but it's the same thing where most of the time it'll be waitlisted. So you'd be on that upgrade list that they have for international flights unless there's confirmed PZ upgrade space. Although the downside is you will have to pay a pretty significant copay. So it's something around $400 to $500 if you're doing this. So you can find some value just using your miles to upgrade to, but it kind of depends on the situation.
So just a quick question for the mileage upgrades. I just want to ask, like, it has to be a revenue ticket originally, right? Same rule applies. It can't be a mileage ticket. Okay.
Wait, I have a question about the Star Alliance upgrade award, which I think you're mentioning, which is using United Miles to upgrade a partner. So generally, like, how do you figure out if the upgrade space is available, or do you just try it?
So United's really nice in that they have a form on their website that you put in your confirmation number, your flight details, and which class you want to upgrade to, and then it'll tell you like there's confirmed upgrade space, and this is how much miles it costs. You can do it right now. So I just like entered it onto the site, and it said, yeah, you can book it for me and my friend. So I confirmed it right away.
One sweet spot I've heard about is if you want to fly EVA Air business class from the US to Taiwan, you can book like a medium fare class, like economy ticket on EVA, and then use 30,000 United miles to upgrade directly from economy to business. But the thing I've struggled with figuring is like just figuring out whether there's even that upgrade availability and like what class it is.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure actually if there needs to be award space upgrade or if they just give you the seat. I'm pretty sure they won't just like give you the seat if there's no upgrade or no award or like saver upgrade space. But I was surprised how it worked in Copa, because it seemed like I just picked a random day and there were like multiple award upgrade spaces, so me and my friend could sit in business class. But I think the main use for this, you can use PlusPoints. I don't think you can use PlusPoints on EVA, but a lot of people who have trouble using PlusPoints on United, because the PlusPoints expire every year on Jan 31st. So what you'll see is people get really desperate to use them. So like on a flight to LA, like the upgrade list will be even longer or people who have global services and their complimentary upgrade will be like 20, because there'll be 20 people just trying to get rid of their PlusPoints to use it for anything. So it becomes by around the end of January, people will give them out for free. Like they're really desperate to get rid of them, because a lot of people find it hard to use them if you're not super flexible and like looking around. So actually, with PlusPoints, I went to Italy over President's Day weekend, and I booked an economy class ticket. Actually, United gave me enough United travel cash from the time they stranded me in Japan to cover the economy flight. So I knew that I didn't want to sit in economy for that 10-hour flight or 12-hour flight there, 10-hour back. So, but my friend's parents have PlusPoints that they can't use. So on the way there, actually, there was no PZ upgrade space. So they used 30 PlusPoints. Oh, sorry. Another thing to talk about. One of the reasons people have a hard time using this point space is there are actually ways to hack it that even if you don't have top tier status, you can get your upgrades to clear. So one of the hacks is if you're in Premium Plus, no matter what your status is, you have priority over everyone in economy. So on that list of upgrades, when your upgrades are waitlisted, if you have a Premium Plus seat, you can actually, you will be higher up in the priority list to get that Polaris seat. So one of the hacks that people actually say to do is buy an economy ticket, or, a lot of times the upgrade will only be $300 to Premium Plus. So if you upgrade yourself to Premium Plus, then if you want to use PlusPoints, you have a lot better chance of it clearing. So that's what actually I did both legs. I booked a flight that was in economy. I spent like $600 to upgrade both legs that had Polaris to Premium Plus. And then when my friend's parents used the upgrade on me, both of them cleared. One of them cleared a month in advance. The other one cleared 2 days before. And because I was in Premium Plus, I actually beat a lot of people who probably had like Premier 1K status, but were sitting in economy and whose seat didn't end up clearing.
Okay, that's so interesting. It sounds like there's a lot of intricacies with how the upgrade lists.
There are lots of intricacies. Yeah, and people, I think that's one of the things that they make it hard for you to use them because they don't want you. But if you're willing to be flexible with your flight times and use expert mode on United to kind of see, which flight has PZ, which flight has PN, you can make it so that relatively frequently. I think the hard part is if you're traveling during peak season, a lot of these airlines have gotten so good at selling out business class flights, and they've become more popular with people paying cash. Like during the summer, it's probably really hard to find this award space on flights to Europe, but you can make it work.
And then to apply
sometimes.
PlusPoints, are you able to do it yourself online, or is that something like you have to call in?
Yeah. So you need, if you have PlusPoints in your account, you can apply them to you or anyone you want. You just need their confirmation number, and you can apply it on their website. another thing related to miles, actually. So this is one of the things that United's been cracking down on, kind of related to that Premium Plus hack. What you used to be able to do in the past was you could buy or you could use miles to book a Saver international ticket. So you'd be an XN, but United will still sell you cash upgrades to Polaris or Premium Plus, even if you have an award ticket. So what people used to do is you pay $300, buy a Premium Plus upgrade on your mileage award flight. That would change your fare class to R, which is technically a revenue fare class. And then you could use plus points to upgrade on that. But I've heard recently that stopped working. They've kind of cracked down on that. So you might be able to get it, you might not. But that was one of the hacks that people would use in the past to kind of get upgrades even on award tickets.
Okay. It sounds really complicated. It seems like a really good trick. So you mentioned Oh, Sean, where are you going?
Oh, so I was just going to ask something. I was just curious. So like, as someone who, you're someone obviously that optimizes this very heavily, how would you rate the difficulty of trying to, get these upgrades to clear and all that compared with finding just standard Saver business class awards using different mileage currencies? Because usually the way I fly is I'm using Saver awards to book business class, well in advance using miles. I'm not doing much on the upgrade side. How would you rate the difficulty between those?
So, okay, I guess the thing for me is my Amex spend, I don't have enough really Amex points. Like, I probably have enough Amex points that I could get like 2 business class seats or like a round trip business class flight to Europe. And, I use tools like Award Logic to look for them. But honestly, and this is the kind of thing we talked about earlier, I will go out of my way to fly Star Alliance because I do like having the benefits of United status, so I'll want to try to earn it. And at least with United, the cheapest you'll ever find a business class flight to Europe with Saver award space is 70K miles. And I'd like, it's just, that's so many miles to spend on that one flight for me, at least, that it's easier almost, or I'd be more willing to spend a little bit on cash to make it work out than with miles. So I kind of only got into using this upgrade space because at least my parents, they kind of wouldn't do any of this stuff. If they really wanted to fly business class, they just book it outright if there's discounted fare class space. But I think it actually hasn't been that hard. Like, it was a little stressful, checking the fare class every day, see, is there PZ, is there PN? Because actually, one of the problems is if they open up PZ award space after you try to do the upgrade, so you're still on the wait list, someone could actually come in and snipe that award space before the United system goes through and clears people from the upgrade list into it. So you have to check it sometimes. I mean, it's not really a problem. I ended up clearing both of them pretty comfortably, but it's always nice. I think the thing about this is it's not that hard, for at least for me, because so many of my friends' parents have plus points to acquire these things. And, United is very good about finding cheap economy class tickets to most of the places I want to go. So if I'm not flying with my parents and I wouldn't be able to afford it outright, this is a very easy way to kind of sit in a nice seat.
I see. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of really cool details about the program, but I was wondering, Sathvik, for someone who doesn't travel or fly as often, if they were interested in United, what are the major takeaways or recommendations you would have for them to look into? What should we focus our energy on?
So I think the main takeaway with United, they've always had their ups and downs. I think all the U.S. airlines kind of had. But the reason I really enjoy United, and the problem, at least with the U.S. airline industry, is you're often very limited with your options. So if I want to fly to most places in the U.S., the only way I could fly on any airline except maybe Alaska was with a connection. And I think they know this. United knows this. So they actually, charge, they charge probably a premium, and they also can get away with not having as great customer service or support. So I think that's the problem with the airline industry, is a lot of times in the US you're limited with your options. But I think United, they've gone very good recently. They're, like most airlines, their soft product, especially in premium cabins, isn't as good as the Middle Eastern carriers or even many European carriers. But what they do give you, I think, is very good customer support. So I know that if anything ever goes wrong with United, they will shower me with United cash to use for the next time. And that's a nice feature. They'll also, having access to the Premier phone desk, so that if I call them, honestly, when things go haywire, they go haywire for everyone, but I can get access to a representative who knows what they're doing relatively easily. I think it's very beneficial to me. And, just their size of their network kind of really is going to be useful for most people. So even my friends who don't have any status, when they're flying off to college on the East Coast, most of them will end up flying United just because out of where I live, they have so many options and so many things. And I think out of the U.S. airlines, because they're in Starline, because they're part of the Star Alliance, you'll have the best options to travel on codeshare partners and more access than some of these other airlines that might not have as wide of a global reach.
I see. Okay. Well, I do think that is a good place to end today's episode. Thank you so much, Sathvik, for coming on and showering us with your United knowledge. I'm sure our listeners will have a lot to take away from all those details.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great. It's been awesome to just learn so much about this very, very interesting program.
I think this information is super useful. Like, I personally learned a lot. So thank you again for coming on. So if you all enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. If you're interested in signing up for a credit card to earn more points and miles, please consider using one of the links down in the description below. It greatly helps support our channel. And finally, Sean, why don't you plug our Discord?
So if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers and credit card enthusiasts entirely for free and learn a ton, check out the Traveling Discord group at the link in the description or at the pinned comment down below. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.